Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from anything that I've done yet on my channel. It's going to be about the makeup rehab that I'm going to be putting myself through. This video was inspired by Paige over at Thrifty Beauty, so I'll leave the link to her channel, playlist, videos like this in my description box down below. But I believe that she drew inspiration for her makeup rehab from LS here on YouTube, so I'll leave LS's channel link down below as well. And I know like there's things on Reddit and stuff that basically are very similar as well, so there's definitely people out there similar to me that need some makeup rehab. So if you guys are interested in the rules or goals and stuff that I've set for myself during this little experiment, then just keep watching. Alright you guys, so like I said, I'm going to be putting myself through a little bit of makeup rehab because my spending when it comes to makeup has just gotten out of control. I was recently on vacation and I was thinking to myself like I want to go on a lot more vacations, but then I find myself always spending money on makeup. Which granted, makeup is a huge part of my life. It's a hobby of mine and I obviously really enjoy it. I collect a lot of makeup, etc, etc, but my spending habits have gotten a little bit out of control. So this is a way, so the main goal of this makeup rehab is just to make myself more aware of my spending habits and to try and make myself think a little bit more before I spend my money and really ask myself why I'm spending it, do I need it, etc, etc. So I'm going to run my makeup rehab from June 1st to January 1st of next year, so a full 6 months. During this time, my goal is to spend a maximum of $150 a month or $900 from now until January 31st. Now I know that still probably sounds like a lot of money to some people, but I do set aside a lot of money for makeup purchases. It's my hobby again, etc, etc. Maybe next year I'll look at setting a more aggressive goal, but for me this is a good goal right now. I am definitely spending well over $150 a month on makeup right now, so this would be really me reeling it in quite a bit. I want to make my goal obtainable and not something that is like I'm going to fail at right away and just totally give up on. So $150 a month, $900 from now until the first of next year. My biggest goal is going to be then $900, so I might try and have months where I don't even spend $150 so that I can save up for a bigger spending period. For example, the Sephora VIP sale in November, I definitely see myself spending over $150 that month. So biggest goal is $900, and honestly even bigger than that, the goal is just to really understand my spending habits and to make me think a little bit harder about my purchases. So we're going to go through my makeup collection kind of and talk about like how much of each category I own and specific goals within that category. Another goal that I've set is to use up at least $750 worth of makeup between now and January 1st. I just filmed an empties video that I believe is going to go up right before this video. If you guys are interested in it, I will leave it linked down below. But it's basically, that was me starting a clean slate, so everything that ends up in my empties bin from now until then counts towards products used up, and I will just go off of the value of that product for adding up the amount of products, for adding up the amount of money or the value of the products that I've used up, if that makes sense. So say I use up a L'Oreal Pro Glow on June 5th, then that'll count as $12.99 towards that goal of $750 or more of product used up between now and then. So another goal of mine is just to use makeup that I already have in my collection. I feel like so often I don't want to completely use up a product because that would mean I would have to repurchase it if I like it, which just doesn't make sense. Like, our makeup is there for us to use. I just wanted to briefly mention what counts in my opinion towards that $150 I spend every month or towards that $900 goal. Basically every makeup product will count, and then for skincare, I'm not going to count skincare towards that $950 if I'm replacing a product that's already in my skincare routine. But if I'm going out to purchase new skincare items or face masks and stuff that isn't already in my collection that I wouldn't be replacing, then I will count that towards the $900. So I feel like I have a pretty good skincare regimen going for myself right now. So again, if I'm replacing a skincare product, I'm not going to count that. But if I'm buying or bringing new products into my collection, then I will count that towards the $900. Alright, so let's talk about makeup that's currently in my collection. Currently, I have 12 primers that are in my collection. My goal with the primer category is to finish a primer before opening or buying another one. So basically, I only want to have 3 primers open at a time. One could be like a smoothing primer, one a hydrating primer, and then one, I don't know, moisturizing primer. That's the same as hydrating. Anyway, My goal is to, after I know I have quite a few primers open in my collection right now, but once I kind of get through the primers in my collection, I want to have only 3 or less open at a time. I feel like habitually with my entire makeup collection, I'll buy stuff, use it a time or two, and then like it'll get lost because I'll buy more stuff, etc, etc. So I really want to make sure that when I'm bringing new products into my makeup collection that I'm really getting good use out of them right away to find out if I like them, and return products if I don't like them. I feel like so often I end up not really liking a product, but I don't find that out until well past the return date, because I'll buy a bunch of new stuff and certain things will get lost, and then I'll bring a bunch more into my collection and just not try a product out enough to form an opinion on it. So that is another goal of mine, is to just really test new products that I'm bringing into my collection a lot right away, so that I can really form an opinion on it and return things if I'm really not liking them. As for foundation, I currently have 32 foundations in my collection. I think I had 2 or 3 foundations in my empties as of yesterday, so I obviously didn't count those in what's currently in my collection. With foundation, I want to make sure that I'm using up foundations that are going to be going bad, so the ones that have been open in my collection the longest. I want to make sure that when I buy a new foundation, again, that I'm really testing out a lot right away, so that if I don't like it, I can return it, because I know like right now there's a couple of foundations in my collection that I bought and didn't honestly even end up trying until months past the time that I bought it, meaning I really didn't need to buy it at that time, did I? But I ended up trying it out months later and not liking it, whereas if I would have tried it out when I first bought it and found out I didn't like it, then I could have returned it for a foundation that I will like better. I do also want to make sure that I am finishing a foundation before I'm buying any new foundation. So if I want to buy a new foundation, that means I need to finish up at least one foundation before I go out and buy a new one. I would like to see my foundation collection get down to like the 25 range by the end of the year. That would be really awesome. And eventually I'd like to see my foundation collection get even smaller. I would say 10 or less, just because I have some really staple standout foundations in my collection that I love. So why am I even buying all these other foundations? I get if it's a new foundation, you want to test it, blah blah blah. My foundation collection is just out of control and it stresses me out. So I also want to make sure that I'm not buying backups, even if it's the foundation that I really love. For example, the L'Oreal Pro Glow or the Dior Skin Forever. Except for if it's during the Sephora VIP sale, I may pick up a backup of the Dior Skin Forever, because I know that's my favorite foundation. But not to buy as many backups, because oftentimes my backups will just end up sitting for months and months and months, whereas the world isn't going to end if I go without a foundation for a couple days when I need to go get a backup. And then again, if a new foundation comes out, like a glowy foundation, I really want to look at my foundation collection at the current time and see if there's other foundations similar to the one that I'm eyeing that's currently in my collection. For example, if I want a glowy foundation but I have a ton of like the L'Oreal Pro Glow or the Lumi foundation currently in my collection, I want to use those up before purchasing another glowy foundation. So those are my goals within the foundation category. Then moving on to concealer, I currently have 16 concealers in my collection. Again, I want to finish a concealer before buying a new one. So if there's a new concealer that I'm eyeing, I gotta finish a concealer before buying that new one. Honestly, concealers take so long to go through. I've been using my Too Faced Born This Way concealer for, I'm not kidding, straight probably 4 or 5 months, not using really any other concealer. And it's taking me so long to get through it. So again, I also only want 3 concealers open at a time. I only want to rebuy a concealer if I truly love it and end up missing it in my collection. And I don't want to buy too many to test at a time either, again, because I don't want to end up having a ton of concealers open at a time. And the reason I chose to have 3 open at a time is because I was thinking like a full coverage, a medium coverage, and then a lighter coverage one open at a time, if that makes sense. Okay, for bronzer, I currently have 18 bronzers in my collection, which is so much if you consider bronzer, and really like there should only be a couple. I feel like your bronzer collection could be like 5, and that would be more than enough, because in order for a bronzer to look good, like it's just so shade specific. So 18 is just totally out of control. However, it is really tough to get through bronzers, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I hope to be down to 10 by the end of 2018, because I just don't think that's realistic. I mean, I like all the bronzers that are currently in my collection, but when buying a new bronzer, I want to ask myself why I want it, and I want to wait at least a week before purchasing it. For example, like I knew the Fantastic bronzer from Marc Jacobs. I had been thinking about that bronzer for like 6 months to a year, so like that was a valid purchase in my opinion. But I don't just want to spur of the moment swatch a bronzer at a store and decide to buy it. I really want to think about my bronzer purchases, because again, 18 bronzers is just way too many. You don't need that many. So I want to think about it, see what I have in my collection that's similar, and then decide from there if I really need a 19th bronzer. You feel me? Similar to that, we're going to talk about blush next. I currently have 32 blushes in my collection. I love blush. Again, I want to wait a week before buying. I want to go home. I want to swatch out what's in my collection, ask myself what about the new blush that I'm eyeing do I love, and see if I have anything similar to that in my blush collection. Because realistically, like on the cheeks, you really can't tell that much of a difference between, you know, all the shades of pinks of a blush, etc. So my blush collection again is out of control, but I absolutely love blushes. So those are my goals within the blush collection. Highlights even worse. I have 35 highlights currently in my collection. Again, highlighters, I do like spontaneous buys. Like I'll be at Sephora to buy something and then I'll swatch a highlight and be like, oh my god, I need that. I definitely want to focus more on minis for bronzer, blush, and highlight, just because it takes so long to get through all three of those because you're using so little of them. I've definitely never gone through a blush, a highlight, and I've like halfway through a bronzer and it's taken me forever. So with those three, my goals basically with those three are just to really stop and think about your purchases and don't have any spontaneous or spur of the moment purchases unless, you know, it's limited edition, and even then, like, you can probably hold off a little bit. For face powders, I currently have 14 in my collection between my pressed and my loose ones. I want to again finish a powder before buying a new powder. I've definitely been dipping my toes in powders lately, and that's why, like, I probably had like 3 powders at the beginning of this year and now we're up to 14. I definitely again don't want to be purchasing backups, and I don't want to be doing any rebuys unless I know I really love the product. For lip products, I had way too many lip products to count. For lips, I shouldn't honestly be buying any new lip products. So my goal, truthfully, would be to only bring, we're gonna go with 5 more lip products into my collection within the course of this 6 months left of this year. I sent a lot of lip products in my subscription boxes, so I really like, I need to really be thoughtful about my lip product purchases. Again, swatch stuff out in my collection, no spontaneous lip purchases, and we're gonna have a goal of only bringing in 5 more lip products over the course of the next 6 months. For eyeshadow palettes, again, I didn't really feel like counting all mine out, but I know I have more than 50 eyeshadow palettes. I again want to set a goal of only 5 more eyeshadow palettes brought into my collection this year, so I'll definitely be keeping track of that. Again, I just want to be really thoughtful of my eyeshadow purchase collections with the size of my eyeshadow palette collection. Like, honestly, there's probably not a lot of shades out there that I don't have, so an eyeshadow palette at this point should be really special to me to actually make that purchase. I forgot to mention, like, mascaras, I have currently 27 in my collection. A lot are trial and travel size that I've been sent, but that's currently what I have in my collection. Now, mascara is interesting because I definitely have like my 3 go-tos that I use, but I really should only need to be purchasing those a couple more times this year to get me through the year. As far as like eyeliners and stuff, I again didn't really include that in here because I don't really delve into eyeliners a whole ton, so I should really only purchase, like, I should have a goal of like 3 or less for eyeliners for the rest of the year. Alright guys, so that concludes basically all of my goals and like what I own in each category of makeup. So I definitely will be doing monthly updates for you guys where we talk about what I spent the previous month and how much I used up that month. Again, the point of this is just to, 1, use and love the makeup that's already in my collection, 2, to save money, 3, to be less wasteful and to get more use out of products right away to make sure that I truly love them and they're actually getting love from my collection, and 4 is to just be more mindful of my actual spending habits when it comes to makeup. So if you guys are interested in doing something like this, definitely join along with me. If you're doing something like this right now, let me know how it's going for you in the comment box below. Let me know what you think of this video. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, don't forget to do so before you go, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!